What's that? Out in space, it's a station with a T-Rex face. Firing lasers and playing games and killing all those herbivores. Out beyond the atmosphere, he's collecting stuff and striking fear. Come on board and grab a beer for gameplay vids and retro cheer. T-Rex Space Station.
Hi guys, it's Benny from T-Rex Space Station. How's everyone doing? And welcome back to another Community Collection Questions episode. Firstly, a big thank you to everybody who did video responses to the last episode. It was really great seeing your game recommendations, and I hope you guys can come up with some interesting responses to this month's episode. So I've got 5 more questions for you, and I want to see 5 more games from your collections. The first game that I want to see is the last game that you picked up. Now, I know in the last episode I had a what game did you buy this year, but actually not all of you had bought things this year, so this will be interesting to see when it was and what it was that you got. For me, the last game I picked up was on the PS4, and it was Neo. You can see I got this from CEX for £40. It's quite a new game and the price hasn't really gone down yet. This was a game I bought purely based on the reviews, which have all been unanimously very good. It's getting 9s and 10s out of 10 across the board, and I found it really hard to get into it because I'm not massively into the Dark Souls type games. I found it to be incredibly challenging, and no joke, getting past the second boss took me 2 days worth of attempts. It must have been about between 3 and 4 hours worth of gameplay before I got past it. Out of sheer stubbornness, I managed it, and I'm starting to slowly enjoy the game now, but boy, I really did not know what I was in for. I've never really been into the Dark Souls games, so I think that's probably why it took me longer to get good at it, because if you're already familiar with those games, you probably will be kind of natural and be able to just figure it out as you go along, but this really did kick me in the butt, and I'm enjoying it now, but man, if you've really got to go into that game prepared, if you're not like sort of a sucker for punishment or a pretty stubborn kind of person, you're going to find this game really intimidating, so I don't know if I should recommend Neo or not really, it's up to you. What I would say is, watch some footage of it and maybe speak to people who've played it before you buy it, because I very nearly returned it. I went back to CEX with the game and was going to return it before I decided to give it another go. So be careful with Neo. Next up is a game with collectibles in it. Now, there are lots of games like this. This could be, a game with rings in it like Sonic, or coins in it like Mario, or various other creative collectibles. I've gone for an N64 game. The N64 was really the king of those old school 90s 3D platformers, and I've chosen Banjo and Kazooie here. Now, this was the first game that I bought when I re-bought the N64, because it seemed like such a cool game when I was a kid and I never had it, and it really is a game that's stuffed to the brim full of stuff to do and a crazy number of collectibles. You go around collecting all those little notes, and you've got skulls and you've got feathers, and the world is just, it really is seemingly endlessly stuffed with collectibles. It's kind of, if you're a completionist, I would find a game like Banjo and Kazooie very, very hard to play, because it actually takes a long time to find where all the things are hidden. Not only the jigsaw puzzle pieces, but everything else. But it's really amazing how creative they've been in terms of stuffing it full of notes and all that different stuff. And it's a game that just seems to have more collectibles than anything that I've ever played before. I'm kind of have mixed feelings about games with collectibles in them. I like stuff like collecting rings to get to the bonus level and stuff like that, where I can see a purpose to it. I don't tend to like it where it's just like, here's loads and loads of stuff stuffed in for you to go and do. I get a bit overwhelmed by that, especially if it's not unlocking something or opening up a new area. But Banjo and Kazooie is a really superb game, and you only need to look at things like Ukulele to see that these games are still kind of popular to this day. Suffice to say, I've never beat this game because it's just too full of stuff. Next up, I'd like to see a role-playing game. Now, you can interpret that as you like. It could be a JRPG, it could be a sort of real-time strategy RPG, it could be a first-person RPG, whatever you want, just a type of role-playing game. And I've gone for Baroque on the Nintendo Wii. This game is also available on the PS2. It was published by Atlas, and this is a game that I love to mention because it seems to be really underrated and is actually very, very good. The reason why I find it good is because there are very few roguelikes about these days, certainly very few roguelikes coming out on console systems. The Wii actually had Chocobo's Dungeon as one, and this is another, and Shiren the Wanderer if you're in non-PAL territories, which is quite a hard game to get hold of. But this game has a lot of great roguelike features. It's got tower that you've got to explore, you've got to get to the bottom. It's got a very odd, intimidating, creepy plot to it and an odd atmosphere. It's got all the dungeon crawling action you could want in terms of random items and permadeath. And actually the interesting thing about this is it takes that permadeath roguelike mechanic and makes it that when you actually need to die to progress the game, so you go and do the thing you need to do in the dungeon, then you die and reset and different parts of the plot will progress. It's not very expensive, and it's well worth a look if you're interested in roguelike video games. It's just got a lot of variety in terms of the items, it's got a lot of dungeon crawling. I guess the graphics are a little bit bland, and it takes a bit of persistence, but I find it's a good game to kind of pick up and play for an hour or two, then maybe have a break and come back later and see if you can get further down the Neuro Tower, as it's called. But Baroque is a really underrated video game. Next up, a game that involves the sea. Now again, use your own interpretation. That could be a pirate game, a game where you're in a boat, a game where you're under the ocean, a game where simply the sea is one of the levels. There's lots of Mega Drive games and things which have underwater levels. However you want to. I've chosen Endless Ocean, which is another very interesting Wii title here. This is such a relaxing experience for a game. You're essentially playing as a diver, just chilling out under the ocean, exploring different areas, cataloguing fish, doing soft little missions, but mostly it's about the immersion, the peace of it, and just the beautiful graphics and the atmosphere and the environment and the escapism of it. I find that this game, and I think I really want to check out the second one as well, is just a unique concept that really has this beautiful pace to it that I just found very intriguing. You've got some cute things like you're on a boat and there's a little penguin who's your friend and stuff. Actually, I had multiplayer, which I've not checked out, but in terms of like the Wii's visual aesthetic experiences, this game was a very interesting one to check out and kind of just to immerse yourself in and lose a bit of time in. It's not one for the hardcore gamer, you know, it's not like some of the other great Wii games, you know, Super Mario games and stuff, but it's a nice experience nonetheless, and again, a game you can find for quite cheap, so it might be worth checking out if you're intrigued by that one. I've done a video of that one in the past if you want to see what it looks like. And finally, I want to know a game compilation or collection. So that's basically where you've got more than one game on one disc or cartridge or in a bundle or whatever else. I find that these are quite interesting to collect for, and certainly there are some interesting remakes of retro video games and things for modern systems. And I really like the Mega Drive Ultimate Collection on the 360. It brings those old Mega Drive games up into HD, they look fantastic. They've added features, there's unlockables on here. There are games that are very hard to get hold of, that are quite rare and expensive, that I'm probably not going to buy the carts for. So this is a way of playing those games legally without having to rip ROMs. And, you know, particularly I would draw the attention to Phantasy Star 2, 3 and 4. And I think Phantasy Star 1 is an unlockable, the Master System game as well. It's great to put this on, play it in multiplayer on the Xbox, and just have a great laugh and revisit some of those old games. But as I said, playing ones that I've not got in my collection that I'm going to find very hard to buy. And it has some extra content too. You can unlock interviews with the developers and cool things like that. So definitely worth checking out the Mega Drive Ultimate Collection if you're a fan of retro video games and you don't always want to be setting up the Mega Drive, or if there are certain things on here that you don't own that you'd be interested in. So it really is a very, very good collection of games. Golden Axe 3 games on here, that's a Japanese only release, so it's got a very good choice of titles on it. There you have it. That's my community collection questions this month. I look forward to seeing your video responses in the comments below. Take care guys, and I'll see you all soon.